what's up guys? It's Jen here from Twin Cities Collective, and today I'm really excited to share with you 10 tips for working with influencers. Now, if you didn't know, influencers are a really great way to share your product or service with a larger audience that's not your own and has maybe never heard of you before. So I'm really excited to share with you some tips that I have before you reach out to an influencer, while you're working with an influencer, and also the end results. So the first thing I want to talk about is finding the right influencer. Now, this is the part of the video where I'm going to plug myself, but actually I just launched a service called Influencer Marketing Research and Connections. If you didn't know, I'm super connected locally with a lot of the influencers around town, and most of them are actually in our Facebook group. So what I do is I actually provide some names and people that I think that would fit your campaign perfectly. Whether it's a specific niche or it's something that you need a certain number of followers, I can provide that. So if you want to head to TwinCitiesCollective.com and click on the Influencer Marketing Connections page, you can learn more about that service. But basically, the reason I'm doing this is a lot of people choose the wrong type of influencer for their campaign, and then afterwards they get kind of a negative taste of influencer marketing because maybe it didn't work out. So I want to make sure that influencer marketing is strong here in the Twin Cities, so that's why I want you to have the right influencer. Okay, so now once you found your influencer, make sure they're legit. Obviously, people know that you can buy followers on Instagram, and if their engagement rate is really low compared to the number of followers they have, they're probably not a real influencer. The other thing you want to check is look at their most recently followed people. If it's a bunch of names of people that look like they're not from the US, that's usually a really high factor that they're probably buying followers. The other thing is if they have over 10,000 and only have under 100 likes, that can sometimes be a trigger. And then also, there's some websites you can check out that show the engagement rates as well as whether or not they have a real percentage of followers. So I'll link those below. Check those out if you're nervous about working with someone and don't really know how to tell if they're real or not. Okay, so the third thing you need to know is have your stuff together. Make sure that when you reach out to an influencer, you have figured out your entire campaign strategy. You have your website, your product, your branding, your messaging, everything you need is ready for that influencer because they are the last step of your campaign, not the first. So make sure that you have everything ready for them so that they can quickly be able to share your product. Okay, so number 4 is making sure that the influencer has a media kit of some kind. Most influencers that are a little bit larger have a media kit, but if you're working with maybe a smaller influencer, having them create a media kit is a great idea because they can also reuse it for future campaigns, but also it shows you some of their stats all in one document. It's basically like a digital resume, and you can see kind of who they've worked with, maybe their niche, a little bit more information about them, and kind of the things that they promote. Media kits are great for people that are trying to become influencers and want to be seen as a source of following of people. So the 5th tip goes kind of with that, making sure that they've worked with someone before or have pretty good standard around town. Part of my service is I'm going to be kind of vouching for people, people that I know have done good work. And so making sure that they have followed through with other campaigns, making sure that they're easy to work with. You could probably even ask someone for a testimonial and say, hey, could you send me to someone who have you worked with, especially if it's a big campaign. If it's a smaller campaign, it's probably not as big of a deal. But if you're going to be working with someone more long term, you're definitely going to want to make sure that this person is legit. Tip number 6 is a lot of times newer influencers or newer bloggers can work for a collab. So basically you trade services in exchange for a shout out. That is something that a lot of people in the Twin Cities do. So definitely check for that first. But then with step 7, if they've hit a certain number, usually at some point they'll stop taking trades and will actually want to be paid for their time and their money and their effort because obviously they're trying to make this as their living. So if they ask for money and you are able to provide it, do that because we want to show that this is an actual legit business and that this is something that you are basically paying them advertising money to advertise your product. So give them the money that they ask for, but there's ways to check. You can look online to see how much people should be worth in terms of how many numbers of followers they have. But at the same time, if they only say that's my number, then you might have to go with that, especially if they have other connections or have other skills as well. Okay, so number 8 is making sure that the photography is either part of it or separate. So you have to decide if the person is going to be providing the photos, if that's going to be an extra fee, or if you are going to provide a photographer, because there are times when maybe you have an in-house photographer, or maybe that person's husband is a photographer or something like that. Talking about the photography is a really important part about working with influencers. Okay, so this is number 9, and this is something I really wanted to touch on when it comes to coming up with the campaign ideas. Making sure that the influencer has some sort of say and some creativity, because the reason that they are an influencer is because they do things a certain way and their audience loves it. So making sure that they have a large creative control over what they're going to be talking about is super important. Otherwise, they'll feel super fenced in and feel like they won't have, they're just being paid to say words. So making sure that they have some creativity in the campaign is super important. Okay, and the final thing is making sure that you have a contract. Even if it's a trade, making sure that a contract happens makes you seem so much more professional as a brand, and then the influencer will feel more comfortable and vice versa, so that you feel more comfortable that they will follow through with the things and you have it in writing and in documentation about exactly what you want from them. There's so many things when it comes to looking at the results of the campaign and making sure maybe the influencer shares that with you, or you have some sort of access to see how the results are. So thanks guys for listening. Make sure to check out my influencer market research and connection services. This is something I'm really excited to start offering, and I hope you enjoy it.